Welcome, future OTs. Let's talk about one of the cornerstones of our profession, assessment. Think of yourself as a detective. Your client has a goal, being able to cook their own meals again, returning to work after an injury. But first, you need to gather clues. Where are the challenges? What are their strengths? Occupational therapy assessments are the tools you use to gather this vital information. They are not just tests with a pass or fail grade. Instead, they are systematic ways to observe, measure, and understand a person's ability to engage in meaningful activities, the occupations that make up their life. These tools help paint a detailed picture of your client. This process is fundamental to everything we do. Without a good assessment, our treatment plan is just a guess. It would be like a carpenter trying to build a cabinet without taking any measurements first. You might get lucky, but it's more likely the doors will be crooked and the shelves won't fit. Assessments give us the data we need to build a strong, effective, and client-centered therapy plan. So what exactly is a standardized assessment? The key word here is standard, like a carefully engineered blueprint for a building. Fixed, consistent, uniform. How it's administered, what materials are used, how it is scored, every detail is in a manual. Read the instructions verbatim. Timing must be precise. This ensures every person is evaluated the exact same way. Consistency is the defining feature. Let's look at examples you'll encounter. PDMS-2, the Peabody Developmental Motor Scales. It's used to assess motor skills of young children. MMSE, the Mini Mental State Examination, a quick screening tool for cognitive impairment. Goal, remove variability from testing. Why the rigidity? To generate objective, quantifiable data. Same procedure for everyone lets us compare scores to a norm. A norm is a set of scores from a large representative sample. This shows how a client's performance stacks up against peers. Think of a national baking competition. Exact same recipe, same ingredients, same type of oven. Judges compare cakes fairly. Only the baker's skill varies. Standardized assessments work the same. They control external variables, so only the client's performance is measured. Now let's switch gears and talk about non-standardized assessments. If standardized tools are the rigid blueprint, think of non-standardized tools as a freehand sketch. They are flexible, individualized, and do not have a rigid set of procedures or a formal scoring system that compares results to a normative sample. Instead of focusing on how a client compares to others, these tools focus on the client's unique performance in a specific context. They are adaptable. Therapists can modify the assessment to fit the individual client, their environment, and their specific goals. The emphasis is on quality, not just quantity. You are probably already familiar with the principles of non-standardized tools. A clinical observation is a perfect example. A therapist watches a client perform a real-world task, getting dressed, making a cup of tea in their own kitchen. The therapist isn't following a script. They observe the quality of movement. They note the sequencing of steps. They look for safety awareness. They listen to the client's reported experience. Another example, an occupational profile interview. A guided conversation to understand the client's history, values, interests, and priorities. Scoring a standardized assessment is a precise and objective process, guided entirely by the test manual. There is very little room for subjective judgment. The manual provides explicit criteria for what constitutes a correct or incorrect response and assigns a specific point value to each. For example, in a test of hand dexterity, the score might be the number of pegs placed in a board within 60 seconds. The therapist's role is simply to count the pegs accurately. There's no partial credit for trying hard. There's no partial credit for getting the peg close to the hole. The rules are the rules, and they must be followed to the letter to maintain the standard. Once you have this raw score, the interpretation process begins. This is where the normative data comes into play. The manual will have extensive tables that allow you to convert the raw score into a derived score, such as a percentile rank. A percentile rank, for instance, tells you what percentage of the normative sample scored below your client. A score in the 75th percentile means the client performed better than 75% of their peers. Interpreting a non-standardized assessment is a completely different ballgame. It is an art form that relies heavily on the therapist's clinical reasoning experience and ability to synthesize qualitative information. There are no scoring tables or percentile ranks. Instead of a number, your score is a rich, descriptive narrative. When observing a client making a sandwich, you aren't just counting the number of steps they completed. You are analyzing the quality of their performance. Did they seem organized? Did they remember to wash their hands? Did they handle the knife safely? Were they able to open the jar? The interpretation process involves identifying patterns and themes from your observations and interviews. You are looking for the story behind the client's actions. You might use a framework, like the person-environment-occupation model, to help organize your thoughts. Person, their cognitive status person, their physical skills environment, height of the kitchen counters environment, the lighting occupation, complexity of the sandwich they chose to make. This allows you to form a hypothesis about where the breakdown is occurring and why. So, which type of tool is better? The answer is neither. Both standardized and non-standardized assessments are essential parts of the OT toolbox. A skilled therapist uses them together to create a comprehensive picture. The choice depends entirely on the question you're trying to answer. You wouldn't use a measuring cup to check the oven temperature. You wouldn't use an oven thermometer to measure flour. Each tool has its specific and valuable function. Start with a non-standardized occupational profile interview to learn client priorities. If they mention memory problems, follow with a standardized cognitive screener like the MMSE for an objective baseline. If a child is referred for clumsiness, use a standardized motor assessment like the PDMS-2 to compare to peers. Also perform a non-standardized observation on the playground to see real-world impact. Ultimately, mastering assessment is a journey, not a destination. The skill grows with every client and every tool you learn. Don't be afraid to mix and match. The best assessments combine objective standardized data with rich personal non-standardized stories. That helps you understand the what, the score, and the why, the context. Embrace the role of the thoughtful detective. Be curious, be observant, and be confident in choosing the right tools to unlock clients' potential.